Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 289. In this episode, you're going to hear from Christine Malik. Christine is a SASSI coach, a speaker, international advocate for women against abuse and domestic violence. She's a women's confident coach and author, podcast guest pro, and SASSI Academy founder, and she's based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about violence against women and domestic violence, abuse, that kind of thing. So we talk about Christine's experience and what happened to her and how she got out of the situation she was in, and also like signs that you can look for and the power of a coach. So get ready to dig in because you're not going to want to miss this episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Christine Malik. Christine, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Thank you, Marie. Me too. Thank you for having me.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Badass, honey. Badass. In every good possible sense to the word, badass.
Nice. Have you always felt that way?
I did in my younger years, probably my mid-20s when I was married the first time. Lost it. You call it badass. I call it being sassy. Sassy, as I said, stands for strong, assertive, smart, sexy, and independent. Because of a really bad second marriage, I lost that. I lost my badass. I lost my sassy. I didn't lose it. It got stomped on. But yeah, this past year, going through healing myself and realizing where lessons that I needed to learn from my past have made me a total badass now. Total badass. I love the woman I am today. It took a lot of work. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of realizations and healing. It took time. It was not always easy. The steps were hard sometimes. They were big climbs, but I got over it. And that's what I hope to help other women do.
Can you give an example of like the work you did or something you did to help rediscover your badassery?
I got coaching. I got counseling. I delved into my previous lives to see where maybe some of those issues came from that I carried forward, lessons that I hadn't learned in a previous life that came forward. I knew my life, when you contemplate suicide all the time, something's got to change. That's when I knew that something needed to change. I needed help in finding out where my true path was, where my guidance was, who my guides are, because they're always with me. Yeah, it was discovering who I really was inside.
Okay, I can't wait to dig in and to hear more. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Ooh, want the good parts and the bad parts, or a little of both?
A little of both.
All right. I am a 57-year-old woman. I have 3 absolutely beautiful children, 2 boys and a girl. My girl's in the middle. I have 2 absolutely gorgeous granddaughters. One is 11 and one is going to be 2. I have a grandson on the way from my daughter. I love nature, animals, little bit about myself. Well, I've been through, that's probably the good parts. I've been through being molested by a family member up until the time I was about 4 or 5. I've been raped, I can't tell you how many times. Gang raped twice. I was abducted when I was 20, 19 or 20. Got addicted to drugs and alcohol very early because of some of those things that I hadn't learned yet from previous lives and those issues, that the childhood traumas that I had gone through. Let's see, died on the operating table twice, probably about a half a dozen times. Actually went, I'm here, but I attempted suicide about a half a dozen times. First marriage just kind of went after 20 years, we kind of went our separate ways. Second marriage, because I was full-blown alcoholic and would not admit it at that time. And by the way, I am clean and sober a little over 6 years. So it is possible. It is great. I love the life. But then the second husband came along, and he was a full-blown narcissistic, abusive son of a bitch. He was bad. But everybody asks me if I ever regret those 7 years with him. The abuse was not only verbal, physical, mental, spiritual, psychological. We heal from the physical abuse, but it's all those other abuses that take a long time to heal. His physical abuse didn't start immediately, but when it did, it was bad. Black eyes, bruises all over my body, choke marks on my neck. Let's say I was beaten with a rubber mallet, that my wrist was broken, 3 cracked ribs, and I survived a gunshot wound to the head. I also survived dying on the operating table twice, because, the abuse and everything else got so bad that I ended up in the hospital, 4 surgeries, 15 procedures. And finally divorced him, and I moved from Florida to Tennessee. I'm now in Tennessee. I've been here about a year and a half, and I love my life. I love what I do. I love helping other women. I love seeing them go from more and less than what I went through and surviving it all, and having those aha moments and realizing, wow, I did it. I can do it. I do see these red flags. I can be sassy. I can do sassy. I can have sassy. It's kind of like my tagline. We do have sassy. I also say that we ruffle feathers and we blow some minds, and that's what I'm out to do. I'm out to cause some serious healing for women all over the world, especially women of abuse. That's a little about me.
Yes. No, I love that. I think healing isn't something that's taken as seriously, or we don't realize that we have to actually be intentional about healing and taking steps to take care of ourselves. So I think that that's so important. The abusive marriage that you were in, looking back, and this isn't like a beat yourself up kind of thing, but looking back, was there signs that were occurring before the physical abuse started happening?
Absolutely. But you can ask me those signs. Everything from you start to question your sanity, the way things were worded, little things like, and I didn't realize it at the time. It wasn't until I went through and healed and of course talk about it. We have to talk about it. We have to, whether it's openly like this or with a coach, we have to talk about it to be able to heal. But one of the biggest things was that he actually came home several times throughout the day, at odd times, and was like, "Where's your phone?" And I was like, "It's on the counter." "When I call your phone, you answer it." It's like, oh, no, really, that was a huge red sign. You'd hear stories about how, especially when I was in the hospital and then got out, and it was about a year long that I was in and out. So I would see friends of his that would say, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that he was here for you and that he took care of all this for you." And that what he was telling everybody on the outside and what I was seeing on the inside in the relationship and personally were two separate opposite ends of the spectrum. Totally different. The obviously the sexual abuse is pretty easy to spot. It's those mental and psychological abuse that we call it gaslighting, love bombing. Every time the day after was always, there was some sort of gift, some sort of half-ass apology. But you have to remember, Marie, we love that person. So we allowed the excuses. We allowed the reasons why, we started then coming up with, well, maybe it was something that I did. Maybe it was something that I said. Maybe it was the way, I didn't hang his shirt correctly, or I didn't iron, this correctly. I didn't hang the pants the right way. The crease was, we start, because we love that person, and we do love him. We did fall in love with, it's a really weird love. It's not a healthy love. But we think we love that person. And those changes that come about are not black and white. They are not from Monday to Tuesday. It is changes that happen over a very long period of time, and they're very subtle changes. That one of the things I tell my clients is, if your gut and your intuition is telling you something, listen to it. It's there for a reason. It's telling you for a reason. We are getting it out there now today that more than my mother, my grandmother, back then in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I got swept under the carpet. We didn't talk about it. We didn't go to our girlfriends. They didn't go to their friends and say, my husband's abusing me. And it doesn't necessarily mean physical abuse. Nowadays we're talking about it. We're bringing it more to light. We're shining the light on it. We're saying these are the red flags. We're saying that, hey, you don't have to live this way. You don't have to put up with this. You don't have to do, there are options. There are programs out there. There are things we can do within ourselves to be able to say, enough is enough. I am worth more than just your punching bag, however that punching bag presents itself.
How does having a coach help you in that situation? Like when you're in an abusive marriage or relationship or gaslighting relationship?
Every woman is different. Every woman has their own form of abuse they're receiving. Mine was full-blown everything. I do have clients that I have one client, she's newly married, and the situation went from total I love you and caring and consideration, making breakfast, making lunches, helping out with everything in the household, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, an argument. And as much as she did everything correctly to not engage in that argument, all that did was make him more pissed off. It's a hard line to see because, as I said, we do love him. Her and I were lucky enough to say that, okay, these are the things that are happening. This is where I can help you. This is how I can help you. Now she's in. So there's 3 stages that a woman of abuse will go through. The first stage is in it, really in it, in the relationship, in the stage, in the abuse, no matter what form it takes. She's in total survival mode. How do I survive? The body is now shutting down. Emotions are shutting down. The psyche is shutting down. It is strictly for survival mode. Okay. The second stage is what I call limbo, because now you're out of that relationship. You've gone on, you've either kicked him out or you've got a place of your own. You left, you went to a shelter, but you've, now on your own, excuse me. But you start to question, okay, who am I really? Why did I get into this relationship? What are the reasons? What do I need to heal within me to be able to not repeat these relationships? You start looking back at all the relationships and why they didn't work, whether it's husbands, boyfriends, partners, whatever the case may be. You start looking at all that. And you start questioning, okay, where do I need to heal? That's where my coaching comes in, stage 2. And then of course, stage 3 is me, we're good. we're there. We've healed. Not completely, but for the most part, probably 90%.
Yeah, I think healing is a journey, and we like to think, as humans, we like to think like, oh, we just have to do this one thing and it'll be done, and we're conquered for life. But there's
No, it does not. Yeah, it does not work that way, does it?
right. Yeah, there will constantly be little triggers or things we have to work on or work through. What do you do when you have those triggers that come up?
I personally had to work through mine. As I stated, I went from Florida where the abuse happened, the last abuse happened, and that I was divorced in 2020 from him, moved to Tennessee. And even then I didn't it's becoming aware. So what happened was I ended up moving into a townhouse, and I had a neighbor right next door that we shared a wall. Slamming doors would trigger me. And it wasn't until I actually brought it from the subconscious to the conscious and went, oh, wait a second, doors. Why is this still bothering me? Why do I still feel triggered? Why am I jumping? Because it's a natural body reaction that I wasn't aware that I was. Could be a car door, a front door, inside door, didn't matter, door slamming. But it wasn't till I started this healing journey that I realized that was a trigger. And of course, I went to my coach and said, okay, how do I fix this? And we talked about it. We went through and what I found worked for me and what I find works for my clients is that we don't live in the past, but we acknowledge it. We acknowledge what we need to learn from it. And then we learn what we need to move forward from that lesson. So, it could be different for every woman. No two women are the same. It could be, a touch. It could be the door slam. It could be, the way a scent. There have been times that I've had scents going, oh, yeah, okay. Let me just take a step back. Let me think about this. Let me process it. And let me understand why that's a trigger. For me, what worked is I needed to go to my coach, and I had several at that point, because I wanted to heal. I did not want to be in this state anymore. I didn't want to be in a state of high anxiety. I did not want to be in where I don't trust men anymore, where I don't trust relationships. I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to be able. I have so much love yet in me to give, that I said, I have to heal. I needed to do it for myself. I needed to do it for my children. I needed to do it for my granddaughters, because I don't want them to go through what I went through. And then, of course, I do it for every other woman out there. I want her to heal. I want her to be healthy. I want her to know what a good, healthy, non-abusive relationship is. And then the last thing that I hope to accomplish in my life is to teach our younger generations and everyone after that, every generation after that, our boys and girls, that this is not acceptable. When I was younger, if I went home and said, Mom, Bobby pushed me off the swing, well, that just means he likes you. That's unacceptable behavior. What we now know is what it leads to. So we have to teach the girl to be able to stand up for herself, to be sassy, and to teach the boy that use your words, not actions. Take her a flower instead. Don't push her off the swing. Be able to have those. And it really comes down to communication, Marie. We have to communicate. I know I should not be shooting all over myself and having all over myself, but communication. We have to open up this. We talk about everything else now in 2022. Why aren't we talking more about this? There's still many women out there that have endured, and it could have been abuse that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, and never talk about it. Never talk about it. I have a very, very dear friend of mine that it wasn't until her and I started talking and I told her what I had done. And even after all that, and seeing her and talking to her on a weekly basis, and telling her all the things that I had been through. And about 6, 8, maybe even 10 months had gone by. 10 months that we were really good friends. I was opening up and telling her everything till she finally said, my second husband abused me. I almost killed me. And I'm like, and you waited now to tell me? We're really good friends. That's the kind of stuff that we have to stop. We have to not keep it inside, because we know what happens when we keep those feelings inside. It's not healthy. It's not good. So let's bring them out. Let's talk about it. Talk to a coach, talk to a therapist, talk to your friend, a doctor, somebody that you can trust, somebody at work, a coworker that you can go to. And the opposite is true also. If you suspect that your friend is in an abusive relationship, open the conversation. Do not ask, are you okay? Because what's the answer going to be? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Because we don't want to talk about it. That's what we will learn. It's one of those limiting beliefs. Say, listen, I'm seeing some signs. Can we have a conversation about it? Can we go get some coffee and talk about it? We have to open the lines of communication.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's the exact thing I was going to ask you. It seems like there's a lot of shame and embarrassment that comes with it, and people feel like, oh, I should have stopped this so much sooner. I shouldn't have let it go on so long. And then they kind of go down that rabbit hole and beat themselves up. Can you talk about the bringing it to light and how that helps?
Oh my goodness, are you kidding? I don't know where I'd be today if I didn't. It's liberating. And that's why I say that, if that woman hasn't found her voice yet and found her belief, borrow mine. Okay, because I am loud. I am extremely loud about this subject. So let me talk about it. Let me help you heal. Let me go out into the world and go on, podcasts like this and virtual stages and speak about the atrocities that we have to go to. And yes, that shame and guilt and, again, those limiting beliefs that our mothers and grandmothers put upon us, that that we're women. We're so much better. We're so much more than what society thinks we are. I mean, we have women all over the world that are making changes and differences, from young girls to even 80, 90-year-old women that are making difference. We can do this. We can make the change. We can become powerful queens that we are. And badass women.
Yes. So how do we get out of either the victim mode or the feeling sorry for herself and not pushing past that, or feeling angry? I'm sure there's an angry stage in there too, where you're just pissed off that this went on. How do we move out of that stage eventually?
I think the first thing is acknowledge it. Acknowledge that there's something there, that there's some sort of issue. If you can't come full blown with it, acknowledge that there's something there that's holding you back, something that is preventing you from being the badass, sassy woman that you want to be. I think when we get to that mindset of there's got to be more, there's got to be more to life, that's when we approach that door and now have to say, okay, let me open this door. It's going to be nasty on the other side, but it's going to be beautiful on the other side. But open the door, and then seek out. One of the things they say is that there are 3 words in the English language that are the hardest words to say, that maybe make us sound like we are the weakest person when we say it. But when it actually gets verbalized and vocalized, it will make you the strongest person in the world. Those 3 words are, I need help. I have to ask for help. I can do as much, posting and my website and, talking to clients, but till that woman actually is ready and says, I need help, I can't force her. I can't make her. It has to come from within. It has to come from being able to say, you know what? I'm ready to take that step. I'm ready to walk through that door and face whatever challenges come.
What was that moment for you?
My moment was my moment was the night that I was shot in the head. And that was back in 2015. But I didn't know until years later that that was me opening the door. That was when I said, "Oh no, this is my final straw." Um, it was a path that I went on alone, and I should not have. Um, I did not seek medical attention that night that it happened. I laid in a separate bed after it happened, bleeding. But I got up the next morning going, something's got to change. Something's got to give. What happened was almost a year later is when I ended up in the hospital and had those 4 surgeries, 15 procedures, died on the operating table twice, realized that as I was going through recovery and healing from that second surgery where they removed my appendix, my gallbladder, part of my intestine, part of my colon, and my whole left fallopian tube, that when he wasn't there, that's when things really, but it was that moment, because when he shot me in the head, I was begging him, pleading for him to end my life. There was no reason for me to live anymore, or so I thought. But I had to start on that path and go through everything that I went through. The hospital, the being shot in the head was in 2015. Being in the hospital went from 2016 to 2017 when I finally got better and was walking again and driving again and, a little bit of working again here and there and being human again. That's when I found my courage. It had been there, but it just needed to come out and I needed to go through things. That's when I found my courage and said, you know what, dude, this ain't working. This is my house. My name is on the mortgage. I'm not putting up with this anymore. Find another place to live. And I started shortly thereafter, about 2018, early 2018 is when he left. I was still on disability because of all the surgeries. I couldn't work, for anybody. I did some side work, some cleaning and, elder care, things like that, whatever I could do to at least have some money coming in, because I never knew from him if I was going to get anything, any type of support for the house, mortgage, food. I did have 2 dogs and a cat at that point that needed to be taken care of. It was a long journey. Like I said, the gunshot happened in 2015. He left in 2018. I started divorce proceedings in 2019 because he got one of those moments where he said, I'm done. He had already left. He left the state. And I knew I needed to do something. So I started divorce proceedings. That was another disaster. But it was the best thing that ever happened. It put me that one particular night put me on a path to where I am today. And it's because I'm divinely guided by my angels and my spirit team. And this is where I need to be, right here, right today.
I think with abuse, a lot of times what happens is the financial part is held over a victim's head or heads. Like they're not going to be supported by the other person, or they're going to withhold funds, that kind of thing. So it can make it hard to survive if you don't have any finances. What would you say to the woman who's feeling that way right now?
That's where I say get a plan. Get a plan going. If it means, the difference between, you have to start building those pennies, okay, and pick up every penny on the street that you see, okay. Those pennies will add up. Put them aside instead of buying, groceries. And right now, groceries are really expensive. It's hard, but if you can substitute a generic brand or a store brand instead of the name brand, take that difference and put it aside. Find a way to get those funds available. If you're married, you're entitled, check with your state. I'm not an attorney, but if you're married, you're entitled to half those funds. You're entitled to withdraw that money. Now, I know that, if he finds out and he has total control over the finances and you withdraw $20, or even go to the bank, there's a really good possibility that he's going to find out about it. my number one thing is always, always, always your safety first. So, do whatever you can. If you, do some part-time work, there's plenty of things to be done online. Get a separate checking account. Start working on getting things in order. Make a plan. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but get something going so that you're not in that situation. That is the last place I want to see a woman. So if we could be proactive and get things in place and work on getting those finances to where you can at least, even if it's a hotel room for, a motel room for a week, especially if there's small children involved. If the children can stay with relatives, grandparents, either side, get them involved. But we have to start talking about it. We have to say, listen, your son is an SOB, plain and simple. You want to see the bruise he left last night? We have to find our voice in that. We have to be able to say enough is enough and then start being proactive and take steps to get out of the situation. In the States here, 1 in 4 women will experience some form of abuse in their lifetime. 1 in 7 do not make it out. 1 in 7 don't make it out alive. And that's a statistic that I think we can change and end by teaching and not keeping that vicious cycle going, but now the knowing cycle or the healing cycle. Let's heal us first. Let's, get our boundaries in place. Let's understand us. Let's work on us and our children. And then we can work on, men are little by little, they're saying enough is enough, guys. We got to be better. We have to be better men. But it's a cycle, some guys just, they don't understand. My ex, he always thought because of his narcissistic ways, he never did anything wrong. I was like, are you kidding me? Really? Really? So, one day at a time, one step at a time, do whatever you can to get out safely.
So good. Christine, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
Keep fighting. Keep fighting. I know it sounds a cliche, but you know what? Keep fighting, because I've been on both sides of life and death. And I've contemplated suicide way too many times. I've taken the pill and alcohol mixture. I've had the razor blade in my hand. I've cut my wrist. I've done all that. Okay. I've seen hell and I've seen death. It's so much better when we can get better, when we can look forward to that future. So yeah, keep fighting. Whatever you got to do, reach out to somebody. If not me or you, Marie, somebody, reach out. We're here. We're quiet. Some of us are quiet. Some of us are really loud. Reach out. Let me be your voice. Let me help, but keep fighting. It's worth it. It's worth it.
And how can we connect with you?
Thank you. I'm on Facebook, SASSI Coach Christine, and that's SASSI. My website is SASSIcoach.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You Google SASSI, you will find me. That is SASSI. Strong, asserting, smart, sexy, independent. That's what we are.
Thank you so much, Christine. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you for having me.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, own it and get after it. Okay, 5 takeaways from that episode with Christine. 1, don't live in the past, but acknowledge it, and acknowledge that you need to learn from it. Learn and then move on. Number 2, be proactive and take steps to get out of a bad situation. Remember, your safety always comes first. If your gut and intuition is telling you something, then listen to it. It's there for a reason. Number 4, stop keeping your feelings inside. Bring them out. Talk to a coach or a therapist or a trusted friend. Number 5, keep fighting and reach out to someone who can help you. Okay, Tune in on Thursday to hear 3 reasons why Christine Malik is so badass. Talk to you then.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.
Well,